made an M off a daily fantasy. His number too high, then I'm probably fading him. He been on the road, he gon' eat up my salary. I hit up by, he gon' lie before lock. Play back to back, then I probably won't pick on the DFS bachelor, good as it gets. Build a few liners and hit me a leg. He had a good game, but it might be a trick. Log in the Slack so I know who to pick. Sharing our liners, we all gon' get rich. New to this game, you should come to the pad. You might want some cash and get a good laugh. DFS sports, we gon' run up a bag. He heard every game and it's making me mad. You buying your lineups, I think you a cheater. DFS bachelor, he the new leader. Yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Bachelor Pad. I, of course, am your host, the DFS Bachelor. And, of course, we're talking League of Legends, so what do? We bring in our League of Legends Supermind at League of Items on Twitter, Mr. Mike. Before I forget, be sure to check that video description. There's going to be a link to his channel, both of our Twitter feeds. Mike's doing live streams of everything League of Legends-wise that I could never possibly do. So be sure to check all that out. Follow us on Twitter for all the latest information, updates, etc., live streams. How you doing today, brother?
Good. Yesterday I did a first look at LPL and LCK for that tournament that's going to happen at the end of the month. So
Excited. Excited
I
for
looked
that.
at all the individual teams just like at a first glance, and then I'll probably do a bunch of video reviews of like their recent matchups against each other, because I think it'll be a really good tournament, and I think that the matchups are pretty interesting. I just hope that by the end of the tournament, there's like some kind of like strategy that beats the carry jungle meta, because if it goes on for like next season where it's like this as well, it's going to get kind of boring. So hopefully there's like a lot of counterplay and stuff like that, which is always my favorite part of League of Legends anyways, is like how the strategy evolves and stuff like that. And then the other thing I wanted to do was shout out, I think his name is Brian O'Connor. Like he's been watching a lot of our videos and stuff like that, and I guess he's been doing pretty well. And he just shot me $20 on PayPal just for shits and gigs, and was like, thanks for everything. So I'm like, awesome. So basically the way I look at it is like, I put out a lot of content, DFS Bachelor puts out a lot of content, and for somebody to go out of their way to just drop me $20 on PayPal.
Nice.
Pretty nice.
I'll tell you, that's pretty rare, because over the years, I've probably gotten thousands and thousands of messages saying, hey, I won because of this, I won because of that. And there's been roughly 2 people who have actually said, hey, I'd like to tip you. And I never asked for it, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it shows a lot of character. So good on you, Brian O'Connor. I think that's awesome. Well done.
Yeah, and the thing is, like I know that a lot of people in the DFS world, like everybody makes money different ways, like through ad revenue, through websites, through selling services and stuff like that. If you have people that you want to support and continue getting content from, then the easiest way to do that is to make sure that they feel appreciated for what they're doing. You share all their content, and if you have the means to help support them financially. So I just wanted to say thanks again, Dave.
That's very cool. And Mike certainly deserves it. I mean, if it wasn't for Mike, we probably wouldn't be doing these videos. I reached out to him very early on. I think he had 25 subscribers or something when I reached out. Now look at him, almost 500, kicking ass, big brain. Yep. I think it's gone really well. It's been a pleasure for me. And now I love him like a older son. I love him. I do. I really do. It's true.
I appreciate that.
You know that's true as well.
Yeah.
So, very good. So we're done with the mushy bullshit. Also, today I did a live stream, which you can find on YouTube, with Sportsbook Review. We broke down the NFL draft, futures division odds. Be sure to check that out. I'll leave a link in the video description below. I would appreciate you guys going over there and showing some love for that. If you want to hear me talk a little NFL, I'm with some great guys. Teddy Covers, Flash Gordon, Donnie Rightside. They just do a terrific job, and they let my stupid ass in there, and we covered some of that as well. And next week, Mike and I will both be doing a roundtable with them as well, covering esports. So we'll have everything up for that as well. So tomorrow, semifinals, EU Masters, Rogue, LDLC, Movistar, and Kick, who have come out of nowhere. I mean, they had to battle through the play-ins to get here, and now all of a sudden, here is Kick in the semifinals. Should we just jump right into game one? Did we cover everything else? By the way, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Really appreciate if you guys would do that. do the same for Mike's channel as well. It's all in the video description below. So let's get started. First game. RGO, LDLC. Now, LDLC got themselves here. They're my least favorite team. I cannot stand that team. They played well. There's just no doubt about it. They played well. Mike was right.
Even Bando. Bando didn't even look as horrible as he normally does. He didn't look great or anything. But...
Yeah, but no, Bando was good. He outplayed Sendo. That's for damn sure. In the top lane, he outplayed him and redeemed himself with that team. Now, this is the furthest that LDLC has ever been in this tournament, just based on previous years. RGO looks to be the favorite right now, which I thought was surprising. LDLC was a higher ranked team coming into the tournament. I thought for sure LDLC would be the favorite in this.
Yeah.
But in terms of fantasy, there's no doubt about it that Rogue is the more aggressive team. If Rogue wins, they will have more fantasy points than if LDLC wins, in my opinion, just looking at this matchup. Of course, it's a 2-game slate. So for me, I'm hedging and covering every angles of this. But if I was going to go over on one of the teams, I would go Rogue just because of their fantasy upside. What do you think about that?
So it's pretty tough to project like how teams are going to do in terms of fantasy scoring when they win or lose, because it's like how do the play styles mesh? So it's like if Rogue is a more like high kill score team in general, why does that happen? So when you look at their matches against Mouse Sports, they played with Sejuani twice, right? And that's not a carry jungler. And in this meta, I think that the carry junglers are extremely important, because if you're on a carry jungler and you fall behind, it's really tough to stay in the game. So for Rogue, it is kind of a good thing that they play tanks in the jungle, because when you're losing, at least you'll have a tank like that. It's just like it's just something that helps stabilize the game. So if you look at their matchups against one another during the group stage, they played each other 3 times, right? And LDLC won 2 of those games. So I'm not really sure why Rogue is even favored. Like I don't understand why public perception would be higher on Rogue, and I don't know why the sportsbook would kind of post that line. Like maybe they've been getting more action on that side.
Yeah.
In general, and they're like afraid of posting a line that's going to get steamrolled by somebody. But it's like that kind of thing where if this was the NFL and you have somebody putting 50 grand on a team, then yeah, the line's going to move a lot. But in esports, the amount of money that's exchanging hands is significantly lower. So I've always been trying to figure out like how much money is moving these money lines. Right. Because if I'm like a random Polish fan and I just love Rogue for some reason, and I put $1,000 on it because I'm rich, like, how much is that going to move the line? It's just something I'm kind of curious about. Right.
And these two teams have split over the past couple of weeks. There was a 1-0, they played that day where they do these round robin crap. It was 1-1. LDLC 1-1 on the 29th, and Rogue won on the 22nd. For what that's worth.
But then there was one more. I think there was one more in the tiebreaker.
Oh, that's right. The tiebreaker was won by LDLC to get into the quarterfinals. So
the best.
LDLC.
So on DraftKings, obviously Rogue is going to be more expensive at every position, right? But let's take a look at the actual matchups to see what we can find. Sure. So their first game against LDLC played. It was Maokai versus Aatrox. That's pretty normal. Trumbull versus Lee Sin. Lee Sin is like a very volatile champion right now. Like he gets a lot of criticism because he has a very bad win percentage in EU Masters, I think, like 33% or something like that. And it's because in general, teams, when they pick Lee Sin, they're trying to play for the early game, and they either snowball the game and win, or they get outscaled and they lose. So LDLC successfully used Lee Sin, which is a good thing to see. In their second game, Rogue actually gave away Graves. They were blue side. They gave away Graves to LDLC, but they managed to win the game. So that's a red flag for me, because even though they won, I would expect if it happened again for them to lose. I think as teams collect more information on how to play carry junglers, the teams with carry junglers will be more favored, and it's just a better play style. So I always look for that, and I always prefer the other side. And that was Renekton versus Ornn, which is another matchup we can see. Sejuani versus Graves, which I would expect to see again. Syndra versus Echo, which is a little bit more unique. Like, Echo is not a champion that you see as often in the mid lane, but it does happen sometimes. I think in China specifically, it happened a few times.
Wasn't that the only time in the whole tournament that he was actually played? If I'm remembering, if that's the right game. It was one of the only times he was actually played in the mid lane, and they were all excited for it and all that. And, okay.
And it's probably just a matchup thing. I'd have to look at the VOD to see how the pick ban went, but I would assume that Rogue blind picked Syndra, and then it was counter picked by Echo, because Echo can use his ultimate to kind of mitigate a lot of the damage that Syndra does. And then we had Aphelios and Thresh versus Misfortune and Nautilus. So this is, there are red flags for both teams on this side. So I don't think that teams should be giving up Aphelios, and I don't think that teams should be giving up Graves. The idea is that if the enemy team picks Aphelios, you need a lot of ways to get onto the champion and move him around. Like, we always talk about immobile AD carries being like pocket passers, and you need to move them off of their spot and create pressure in their face so they do less damage. And that's why they picked something like Nautilus Misfortune. But it's just it's such a potential problem, because we saw in the games yesterday, it was yesterday, where Aphelios got a couple of kills around like the Rift Herald fight, and I just assumed, like, okay, well, he got a couple kills, he's going to scale to infinity, he's just going to be a gigantic problem. But his team played incorrectly, and they ended up throwing away the game. It wasn't Aphelios' fault, he just played bad.
Right.
And then if we look at their last matchup, it was another Sejuani game. So Sejuani versus Trundle. Trundle is kind of a counter pick into Sejuani because he can steal a lot of her tank statistics, which makes her pretty vulnerable to getting killed. Aatrox versus Mordekaiser, we could see that again. Azir versus Syndra, it's a normal matchup. And then Senna, Zillion versus Ezreal and Bard. So that's a pretty unique matchup. I wouldn't expect to see that one again. Senna isn't as popular now for multiple reasons. I think that in a carry jungle meta, it makes a lot of sense to include Senna into a team composition, because it's just additional support for the carry junglers. So if that pick does like reemerge in the semifinals, I think that's a potential advantage for teams. But just based off of those pick bans, I definitely prefer LDLC.
Yeah.
In the last game, we look at Rogue banned Graves with their first ban on blue side.
Right.
So they are aware of the carry meta, which that's the best case scenario for a team that doesn't play Graves, is they understand it's very strong, and then the ban it route.
Right.
So I think based off of all that, I prefer the jungler on LDLC. I probably prefer the mid laner because they have a more diverse champion pool and they're willing to counter pick. And then I think I prefer the play, like the shot calling from them as well, because they have Yellow Star.
Yeah.
But Bando is a huge question mark. So that's kind of where
a huge question mark. And you're like, for LDLC, they have even though Woolite has been good for RGO as in the bot lane, Hades, I believe, if I'm correct, has died twice the entire tournament. Hades is a terrific bot laner. Tinks, for me, has been the best player in the tournament when I watch him play. Him or Hava, if you want to go to Hava, I could understand that as well. But Tinks has been an absolute beast in the jungle. Hades, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe he's only died twice, and I think his first death after that game way back on the 22nd didn't happen until the 29th. Like, he's just been all over the place, playing very, very well. So when you have the advantage there in the jungle and the bot lane, I'm leaning towards LDLC as my favorite underdog right now, even though they don't have the biggest upside. I can see a scenario, and I don't know if you watched the interview from Rogue's coach where he called out everybody.
Yeah, I
wants to.
did.
He
That's pretty
wants to.
funny.
So he talked a lot of shit, and I'm not sure why he did that. I think that's
He,
going to inspire LDLC a little bit as well. I
no,
could see LDLC 2-0ing Rogue,
I think he
and
was trolling. I think he was just having some fun. I think that what he was talking about specifically was he wanted he wanted Kick to lose against movie star. Or he wanted Kick to lose against who they play.
Gamers Origin.
Yeah, so he wanted Gamers Origin to win so that his team could beat all of the number one. Or wait,
Yes, yeah, that's what he wanted. He wanted to have all the number
wait.
one seeds on the docket. That's what he wanted.
Well, so you wait. So are you talking about the movie star coach? Because both of those coaches actually said some weird stuff after their
God,
matches.
I don't know.
Because the guy Jarge from Movie Star Writers, he was saying that he thinks that Spain is the best region in the world, or not in the world. He said that Spain is the best region in Europe, and that he wanted Gamers Origin to win because he wanted to beat every single number one seed just for fun.
Sure.
And that was kind of funny. But the Polish coach after his match said something similar, like, "Oh, like I think that it'll be easy. It'll be us in the finals against Kick Neosurf because Poland's obviously the best region in the world." I think it was a lot of tongue in cheek kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And like everybody in League of Legends, not everybody, most teams just love sounding ridiculous and doing weird trolly shit like that.
Hey,
so you'll find that for a lot of teams.
Listen, if you're look at Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan would take a joke and use it as inspiration to absolutely rip your heart out when he played you.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what it was when you're highly competitive. I think LDLC right now, just in terms of 2-0 potential, I do think that LDLC could be RGO 2-0. I really do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And,
well, we both said that we thought LDLC was going to be the favorite.
Yeah. I thought I'm surprised that they're not. And again, LDLC is not. If you guys watched our last video, they're not my favorite team. They're not the most aggressive team. They're not the most tantalizing fantasy option in terms of upside. That certainly would go to Rogue in this matchup. But I think LDLC has the skills to win. It's the furthest they've been. They've kind of broken through that threshold. I think back to Steve Young in '94 when they finally beat the Cowboys. Get that monkey off their back. And they can, one of the happiest days of my life, by the way. And they can move on there. So let's just say if we're going to play the RGO side, because look, there's 2 games, there's 4 teams. So almost everyone, this is what everyone is going to do. You're going to play all 4 sides. You're going to hedge your bets and hope that yours chops at the top. Maybe you can get a little unique, but most likely it's going to be a 3-4, 4-3 stack with the 2 winners, and that's how it's going to work. So everyone's going to have both sides of each game. So really what it comes down to is roster construction while using each team. So with RGO as the favorite and being so expensive, look at Hades. You're getting Hades at 10-5 in the captain spot. Woolite on the other side, 11-7.
Yeah.
So you're going to either have to play Kick, the underdog, in the second game if you are doing an RGO stack with Woolite as your captain, or Chekolad, who also was a beast in the quarterfinals, or you're going to have to do a topper jungler type captain. And for me, the top and the jungler for RGO aren't a lot of trouble. So I think for me, it's tough to build RGO lineups that I feel confident about.
Yeah. So before we move on to the next game, I think that what I started talking about earlier, I didn't really finish my thought on it, was about like how are these two teams going to interact with one another? So when you see somebody like Rogue, they're going to have those gigantic team fights around Rift Herald, Dragon, Baron, and they're going to play to fight in order to get an objective. LDLC is the kind of team that they can do that, but they can also win through the jungle to make it more of a sloppy game where they're just getting a ton of kills, like individual kills, like 1 kill at a time. So it's less about team fighting and more about skirmishing and ganking and stuff like that. And then that's part of the reason why they haven't looked as explosive, because when you see an organized team fight, it makes sense. Like you can see these are the tanks, these are the carries, the tanks are initiating onto the other team's tanks, and like it all makes sense. And like it's just one big event. When you have a team like LDLC and they're ahead, that's going to force Rogue to walk into them, and they're going to have these big team fights on their own terms. So I think that's a big advantage to LDLC, and they would be able to have a high kill upside because the losing team in this scenario would be like having to run into the objectives out of position. And then in the opposite scenario, I think LDLC, when they're behind, they're more likely to give up and trade objectives. So we could see a lower kill upside for Rogue than we have in the past. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if LDLC won and had a huge kill score because Rogue just decides like we're going to continuously fight at these objectives even though we're significantly behind.
Right.
So that's one thing I'd be careful with because I know that we do like looking at sports projections graphs and stuff like that to see which losers give up the most points or which winners score the most points in their wins.
Yeah.
But when you get these two kinds of teams with competing styles, it kind of turns everything on its head.
Right.
I'd have to go back and let me look at the exact games real quick to see what the kill scores were. But if you want to tie this one together, I'll let you know
Sure.
what I find.
Sure. And I think what you just said is absolutely 100% on point. You could have this two contrasting styles. If you think to boxing,
that's kind of what I was going for. Yeah.
We have let's look at Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, probably the biggest fight over the last 10 years. Mayweather very defensive, Pacquiao very aggressive, but the defensive style of Mayweather threw off. And I mean, I've heard all these shoulder excuses. That's complete nonsense. I've watched that fight 50 times. Pacquiao got his ass kicked. He only landed 79 or 81 punches in the entire fight. Manny Pacquiao lands 81 punches in a round and a half in most of his fights. But because of that contrasting style, so even picking Floyd Mayweather in that fight, if you're using that in terms of fantasy, it wouldn't have been a great pick because it just they kind of balance each other out, and it turns into this sort of rigmarole where they're trying to pick. They'll kind of engage 2-on-2s, 1v1s, but they won't go for the kill. Then they'll wait for these sort of team fights around the objective if they're going for the Ocean Soul or et cetera. Then you have to wait for that. You're not going to get these. It'll be very surprising to me if you have one of these 25 kill type games. I just don't think you're going to see that when these two teams play. You're going to see more of like a 10-4, 11-4 type victory.
I think it is more. It is going to be more like Korean in that sense, where it's more methodical.
Sure.
I think you're right that we are going to see teams playing around the objectives like very hard and like understanding like, okay, we just took a dragon. Now we have 5 minutes. We can kind of buy our time, maybe push another objective, but we need to be ready 5 minutes from now for this next fight. And I think that in that scenario, if that's exactly how it goes, I prefer LDLC for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm looking at their matchups head to head, we have LDLC winning 14-13 in a 28-minute game. We have Rogue beating LDLC 20-4.
Wow. Oh yeah, that game was a blowout.
That was Bando dying 7 times
right.
as well.
Yeah. That was when Bando started getting out. That's probably not going to happen again.
Yeah, I don't think so. And then we have LDLC winning 16-4. So although I understand what these games show us about how LDLC doesn't necessarily need to get a ton of kills in order to win, I think when you get a team specifically in the first game and the third game, the first game and like if LDLC wins the first game and then in game 2 they start creating a small lead in the early game and Rogue is feeling it slip away from them, they're going to continuously force the issue and try to fight, I think.
Right.
Because they're more of a fighting team as opposed to like a cerebral team.
Sure. Yep.
And for that reason I do prefer LDLC and the other thing is the best case scenario probably for LDLC's scoring chances is for Rogue to be extremely afraid of the carry meta and to ban out all the carry junglers because that's going to force LDLC onto a champion like Jarvan or Trundle, where it's going to be these gigantic team fights. So right. even though LDLC wants to be on carry junglers, them moving from carry junglers to more of like a tank jungle could actually help their team at large score more Draftkings points. So I just think no matter what the scenario is, you're either going to have LDLC win methodical with low kill scores, in which case you want them to be your secondary stack, or all the carry junglers get banned away, and you want to have them as your primary stack.
Right.
I love LDLC in this spot.
Yep. Completely agree. Completely agree. And they do have this tendency, kind of like you talked about. If Rogue is behind, they're going to engage. They're always going to press the issue. So it can either go really well. We saw the 16-4, 20-4 type games, one way or the other. So there is some upside for the winner. I just love the pricing for LDLC. Too cheap, in my opinion. Game 2, Movistar. Every time I watch them, I just say, I think all of their players are moms or grandmas. I'm always Mrs. Beansu and Mrs. because it just looks like Mrs. on the screen. It confuses the living shit out of me. Against Kick Neosurf, these teams just played about a week and a half ago. Kick actually won that game. They won it in convincing fashion. Movistar is the favorite, slight favorite. It's certainly not RGO is a bigger favorite over LDLC than Movistar is over Kick, if I saw that correctly.
Yeah.
Which is surprising. Kick came out of nowhere. They weren't supposed to be here. They had to play their way into this spot. And now here they are. I like the upside of Kick. I do when they get rolling, they can roll. But I think for me, Hava is the best 80 carry out of this tournament. Him and Hades have been absolutely phenomenal. Hava has shown he can take over an entire game. Him and Zico, mid lane and the bot lane, have just been absolutely phenomenal. One thing that I will point out, DraftKings players who don't know much about what these teams are doing are going to look at the average scores, just, fantasy points per game in their little DraftKings page, and they're going to see these huge numbers for Kick. That's because they played a best-of-3 game that's included in the game log not too long ago. Well, none of these other teams have, so they have more fantasy points just because they played a best-of-3 series. I think that's going to throw some people off. I really do.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think that I prefer Kick because they play the carry jungle style.
Right.
And I expect Graves to be a very highly contested pick in this matchup. Elyoya played it twice when they played against Fnatic, and that was one of the reasons why I liked Movistar to beat Fnatic, was because I thought that they would go for it. But the problem is that Elyoya just didn't look good on Graves. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. You could think to yourself, okay, if Elyoya plays 10 Graves games, he's going to have varying degrees of success. Maybe he looks bad in some wins and looks good in some losses. So we may have seen his worst possible outcomes on Graves. So if that convinces Kick to leave it open when they're on the red side, then they're just asking for trouble. So it's tough to kind of think is the red side team going to ban out Graves or not?
I don't know why they're not. Why are they not? Obviously, Graves has just been the champion of it's the most popular champion in the tournament. I don't understand why it's not being banned out more.
So it's because these teams like to think to themselves, oh, I know what they want us to do. They want us to give them Graves. So if we give them Graves, we'll just do this instead. And it's they're just kind of outthinking themselves. It's the same thing that we saw with Aphelios. Aphelios was a champion that everyone became convinced was extremely broken. Even in a losing matchup, he can win the game by himself easily as long as one or two things in the early game goes his way, which is it's insane because it's yeah, we have Aphelios. Eventually you have some tools to take care of him in a team fight, but in the laning phase, we just have our jungler come down and gank you. We got one or two kills onto Aphelios. Now he's an uncontrollable carry. So it's just, it doesn't make any sense because you can't project the 30-minute dragon fight before the game starts and saying to yourself, oh, well, if the game is close, then we'll be able to engage onto Aphelios really well. It's okay, but what if 5 minutes into the game, he gets a kill in the bot lane from a gank? Now you're in a spot where you just gave away this extremely broken champion because you were hoping that you could exploit some of his weaknesses in late game team fights. But he has a lot of additional strengths earlier in the game that are just not being taken into consideration.
Sure.
So that scares me, and it's going to be like which team kind of outthinks themselves more. And I think both of these teams play multiple carry champions, so this might just be like that Rogue Warriors JDG series, or was it Rogue Warriors JDG or Rogue Warriors against somebody else? Where like it was Rogue Warriors JDG, right? Where they expected it to be a huge bloodbath, and then it was very
Oh
close scoring.
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think it
yeah.
was JDG.
So the reason that happens is because, like, if you take a look at the champion pools, Elioya plays Graves, Olaf, Kiana, which is like a lay-on champion. I don't want to see that. Karthus, a lot of Karthus. So I could see movie star writers saying to themselves, okay, it's fine. We'll first pick a strong champion. We'll give them Graves or Karthus, and then we'll take Graves or Karthus. And that's going to really slow down the game a lot. If both teams are playing the farm heavy kind of game, then it's going to be a huge negative for DraftKings scoring. And
Right.
since both teams play multiple carry champions, I think it reduces the chance that they start banning out carry junglers, unless they wanted to like wait until the last ban in the first pick ban phase, because it's like you get to ban 3 champions. So if you target ban one of the other roles, and then in the third ban you could theoretically try to limit the champion pool by just banning out one of those. But if that happened, I would expect the other team to ban out the other, because those two junglers
Come say hi.
specifically.
Come say
Those,
hi. The boy's bringing me a beer. I'm parenting 101. I'm teaching him to open my beers and bring them to me.
nice.
So he's a good boy. He's also tech support here at the Bachelor Pad. So sorry to cut you off.
hopefully future video editor or something like that.
Yeah. I try not to ask too much of him because I'm already his teacher at home. I'm already teaching him how to drive.
Yeah.
Telling him that condoms are so 90s. So we have to be. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to get too deep into that. I'll have half the people hate me if I finish that sentence. Trust me, you do not want me to finish that sentence. But anyways, there's that. So continue. I did not mean to cut you off.
Well, I mean, that's basically it. So, like, on the one side, we have Elise, Leeson, Kindred, Karthus, Graves. I think those are all champions that, actually, I guess Kick really doesn't play Karthus. But they've shown that they play multiple carry champions,
Right.
and so has movie star riders. So, in my opinion, I think that the fantasy scoring is going to be lower than what most people assume.
I think you're right. I thought the same thing. I feel good about myself now because I thought the same exact thing.
Yeah, you're gonna get into these spots where both teams pick a carry jungler, and it's just gonna change everything.
Right. So
But
that's
we should look closer. We should look closer at. I'm gonna look closer at their box scores from their first games,
Sure.
and then just
sure.
you go whatever you got.
And I will say, if you're looking for a little savings, now I know it's only 11-1 to 10-8, but I think Matislaw in the captain spot at 10-8 is some value for Kick to build that way. Pookie Styles at 11-1, but you'll find when you start doing these 4-3, 3-4 stacks, you need that 300 in salary to finish the roster how you want to do it. It's just how it fucking works out. I just keep looking. I'm starting to feel like the magic for Kick is over. I know that they got here, but I've seen when they play ugly, they play ugly. Pookie Style can be a monster, and he can look really inadequate against some of these better 80 carries. And I think that Hava is. I think that for me personally, it's tough between Hava and Hades. I like them both an awful lot. I think Hava's a better player. I think they have the advantage there. I'm leaning more towards Movistar than Kick just because of that. I do think that Kick has the advantage in the jungle. I think Zlatan is better than Elioya. You talked about it. Elioya has looked kind of inadequate at times, kind of gets out of position. Seems to get a little cocky, goes a little far forward at times and gets himself caught. So it's tough, but I'm going to give the slight advantage to Movistar. I think they've been here before. Kick has had to play their ass off to get here, but I think the magic runs out in this matchup. My personal opinion.
Sure. So Kick beat Movistar. Movistar beat Kick twice. Movistar won a game that was 10-10. Movistar won a game that was 22-9, and then Kick won a match that was 14-3.
Right.
So it does kind of come down to the jungle matchups, like I said. So we had a carry jungler against a carry jungler, Graves versus Lee Sin. That was 10-10. We had Trundle versus Graves, where the carry jungler got ahead of the tank, but the tank's team continued to fight around Baron and Dragon and stuff like that, where Graves went 3-2-13 with Elyoya on Movie Star. That was the highest kill score match. And then we had Karthus versus Kindred, where it was 14-3. And Kick won that one. Right. So Kick both of these teams, really, when they are losing on a carry champion, the game is going to be lower scoring. That's just how it is. Right. So I think, personally, in terms of winning the match, I think Kick has an advantage in terms of winning the match. In terms of fantasy scoring, I think Movie Star winning is probably the highest theoretical outcome for fantasy scoring, but I think there's less likely to win the series.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where I end up. And the worst case scenario is it's a 3-game series. Movie Star wins 1 match, Kick wins 2 matches, Movie Star somehow has more kills, and then I just cry.
Yeah,
that's the worst case scenario.
I mean, well, that's the worst case for all of it. That's why it's okay to hedge some of that way. So I guess before we get out here, do we want to do like our favorite 4-3 or 3-4 stack? I guess we could do that. Like for me, it's LDLC and Kick. I like the double underdogs just in terms of fantasy upside. For some reason, I feel I don't know why, but I'm feeling that way. Even though, like, if you had a gun to my head, I'd say Movie Stars win. But I like the fantasy upside for Kick. I don't know. It's a hedge for me, but I'll say LDLC Kick. I'll go 1 favorite, 1 underdog, or both. I'll go double underdogs again. I like doing double underdogs. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think those are the right sides. I think that both of those teams will end up winning these matches. So if I had to put together 4-3 stacks, I mean, I would do it both ways, 4-3s and 3-4s.
Yeah. Which means you're going to have salary left on the table, multiple thousands, and that's fine. That's what you want. Get unique. It's a 2-game slate. Scared money doesn't make money. The more salary you leave on the table, the less people are going to have that same lineup. That's just the bottom line, no matter how you slice it.
The problem with that is that, like, there are certain stacks. Since there's only 4 teams, all of the 3-4s and 4-3s, all the traditional stacks, are going to be owned multiple times.
Yep.
With 80 carries and mid laners and stuff like that. So then you kind of have this spot where you kind of have to pivot off. I think a double jungle lineup could work, specifically if LDLC and Kick end up winning, or LDLC plus Kick or LDLC plus Movie Star. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I think that the junglers could be the highest. They could have the highest kill participation for their teams.
Yeah. Tinks and Schlatan are 2 of the best players in this tournament. Tinks and Schlatan have proven it through the entire term, are 2 of the best players in the tournament, especially Tinks. I think Tinks can, when I watch him take over a game, it's something to watch.
Yeah, I think Tinks is probably the best jungler that's left.
Yeah, I completely agree. Anything else before we get the hell out of here?
Nope. Can't wait for Saturday for when Rogue somehow beats LDLC and then Movie Star somehow beats Kick. But I've been on fire with European Masters, I think.
Oh God, don't say that. Don't even say it. Don't even say it.
It's the truth. I called every quarterfinal match, right? I called like everything getting up to this point. It's just I'm so perfect. I'm due to fucking lose.
Okay.
That's the honest truth. I think that LDLC and Kick are going to win. I've been on fire. Do whatever you want with that information. If you think that you have to fade me now, then go ahead and fade me.
Do you have wood around or something? Like, fucking knock on something. Knock on your forehead. Do something. Jesus Christ. You're going to fucking jinx it all.
What do you mean jinx it all? I'm not playing huge amounts of money on EU Masters anyways. I'm just going after some tickets.
I'm probably going to throw some money at it because I'm a fucking degenerate. But so don't jinx it, because I'm going to play that same side. So fucking knock on something. God damn it. You jinxed it.
Superstition's not real.
Oh, shit. The fantasy gods are very, very fickle. They are a fickle bitch. I promise you.
Let's promise you.
Mike, great job again. Honestly, all your knowledge is so much appreciated. We appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go subscribe to Mike's channel. Check out all of his. Once in a while, it's going to happen. It's been a little bit, but I'm going to show up on one of those live streams as well. once I can summon up the energy from being an old man. Be sure to check out our SBR roundtable video next week for esports. Check out the NFL one. I'll leave a link down below. I'd appreciate it. Show me some love down there. Follow us on Twitter. We'll have, anything newsworthy will be up there as well. We share sports projections. You talked about that. You do lots of stuff with Dark Sheep. Is that right?
Yeah,
and Dark Sheep. But I feel like the letter's backwards or something when I look at his name on Twitter. Maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know.
The A in Dark Sheep is a 4.
Oh, that's what's going on there. Okay, yeah, gotcha. A lot of times I look and I'm kind of buzzed and I'm just like, oh, fuck, man, you're losing your mind. And so I'm just seeing it wrong. So be sure to check all that stuff out. We really do appreciate all the support. It's a lot of fun. We'll see you for the next slate of League of Legends contests. I'm not exactly sure when those come out, but of course we'll have something up for those.
Yep.
As well. Thank you all again so much. Cheers to you all. May the fantasy gods be with you. I promise you they're... Oh my God. I can't believe he just said that. So yeah, you got to fade everything he said. Sorry, you have to now. He just pissed him off. You'll see. You're going to be apologizing tomorrow for fucking shame. On the next video, you'll be telling the fantasy gods that you apologize.
Never.
Thank you all so much. We'll see y'all later. Goodbye, folks.